In a quiet park, Barron Trump noticed an old homeless man wearing a MAGA hat, ignored and mocked by everyone around him. What happened next? A simple act of kindness changed both their lives forever, leaving the entire nation in awe. Comments below, where are you watching from? And if you like and love our story, kindly subscribe our channel, Life Inspirational and Motivational Tales that explore themes of love, unity, and patriotism. Stay with us always for interesting stories. Thanks. Let's start the story. The streets of Washington buzzed with activity as the early morning sunlight filtered through the towering buildings. Barron Trump, tall and composed, walked with a quiet sense of purpose, eager to enjoy a rare moment of solitude away from the watchful eyes of cameras and public scrutiny. His casual attire, a simple sweater and jeans, helped him blend into the crowd, but his height and presence still drew subtle glances from passers-by. As he strolled toward a nearby park, Barron's attention was drawn to a figure seated on a weathered bench near the fountain. The man, visibly aged and worn down by life's struggles, had an air of quiet resilience. His tattered coat hung loosely on his thin frame, and his belongings were stuffed into a battered duffel bag by his side. But what caught Barron's attention most was the bright red MAGA hat perched atop the man's gray hair. The contrast of the hat's bold color against the man's weary appearance created an image that stayed with Barron as he slowed his steps. Despite the bustling surroundings, it seemed as if no one noticed the man. People walked past him, their gazes averted or indifferent, while some cast judgmental glances at the sight of his hat. Barron stopped a few feet away, watching as a pair of teenagers whispered and laughed, pointing at the man with mocking disdain. He felt a pang of discomfort at their behavior, a deep sense of injustice stirring within him. Without hesitation, Barron approached the bench. "Good morning, sir," Barron said gently, his voice steady and warm. The man looked up, his tired eyes scanning Barron's face. There was a flicker of surprise, quickly replaced by a guarded expression. "Morning," he replied gruffly, nodding slightly. Barron hesitated, then sat down on the bench beside him. The man's shoulders tensed momentarily, as though unaccustomed to company. "I couldn't help but notice your hat," Barron continued, gesturing toward it with a small smile. "It looks like it has a lot of history." The man chuckled softly, his voice rasping. "This old thing? Yeah, you could say that. People don't like it much these days, though," he gestured toward the passing crowd. "But it means something to me." Curiosity piqued, Barron leaned in slightly. "I'd love to hear why, if you're willing to share." The man regarded him for a moment, his guarded demeanor softening. "Name's Henry," he said finally. "Used to serve in the Marines. That hat. It reminds me of the hope I had after I got out. Thought things were gonna get better, you know? But life doesn't always go the way you plan." Barron listened intently as Henry spoke, learning about the series of misfortunes that had led him to this point. He had lost his wife to a long and costly illness, his home soon after, and the stability he had worked so hard to maintain. Despite his circumstances, there was a quiet dignity in the way Henry spoke, a refusal to let bitterness consume him. As their conversation deepened, a small crowd began to take notice. Some recognized Barron and whispered among themselves, while others simply observed the unusual sight of a Trump sitting with a homeless man. A few onlookers made disapproving comments, their voices low but audible enough to sting. "Why is he even talking to that guy?" someone muttered. "Probably some PR stunt." The remarks grew louder when a well-dressed woman approached, her expression a mixture of disdain and disbelief. She stopped a few feet away from the bench, glaring at Henry before turning her attention to Barron. "You shouldn't be wasting your time here," she snapped. "He's just another homeless man looking for pity, and that hat, it's disgusting." The air grew tense, the woman's words cutting through the ambient noise of the park. Henry lowered his gaze, his shoulders hunching slightly as though bracing for more humiliation. Barron stood, his tall frame imposing as he turned to face the woman. His voice was calm but carried a quiet authority. "Ma'am, with all due respect, this man served our country. He's faced more challenges than most of us could imagine, and he deserves our respect, not our judgment." The woman faltered, her confidence wavering under Barron's steady gaze. She muttered something under her breath before walking away, leaving an uncomfortable silence in her wake. Barron turned back to Henry, who looked both grateful and overwhelmed. "Thank you," Henry said quietly, his voice thick with emotion. "You didn't have to do that." Barron smiled gently. "It's the least I could do." As the tension eased, a man in a suit approached, having overheard the exchange. He introduced himself as a local business owner and expressed admiration for Barron's compassion. Then, turning to Henry, he said, "I run a veterans program that helps people get back on their feet. If you're interested, we could set you up with housing and a job." Henry stared at him in disbelief, his hands trembling slightly. "You're serious?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The man nodded. "Absolutely. We've got a place for you." Tears welled up in Henry's eyes as he looked from the businessman to Barron. "I don't know what to say. Thank you." Barron placed a reassuring hand on Henry's shoulder. "You deserve this, Henry, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise." Word of the encounter spread quickly as bystanders captured the moment on their phones and shared it online. Within hours, the video went viral, sparking conversations about respect, patriotism, and the struggles faced by veterans. The story wasn't just about Barron's kindness or Henry's hardships. It became a symbol of the power of compassion to bridge divides and create real change. End of Section 3. In the days that followed, Henry moved into temporary housing provided by the Veterans Program. He began attending job training sessions and reconnecting with parts of himself he thought he had lost. Barron stayed in touch, visiting him occasionally and helping to raise awareness for the program that had given Henry a second chance. For Henry, the MAGA hat remained more than just a symbol. It was a reminder of the hope that had been reignited by a simple act of kindness. Sitting on the same bench one evening, he reflected on how one chance encounter had changed the course of his life. Barron's decision to stop and listen had set everything in motion, proving that even the smallest gestures can ripple outward in ways no one could predict. The story became a powerful reminder that we are all capable of making a difference, no matter how small the gesture. If this story moved you, like, share, and subscribe to spread the message of compassion and humanity. Together, we can create a world where kindness prevails.